What is going on, my guys? This is your boy, Lieutenant Dan here, Unintentional Grounding, live from Orlando, Florida. Woo! My goodness, we are live, and we are hitting you guys with the brand new news that is coming out here with the Atlanta Falcons Sports Talk. And all of the things that are currently going on, the theory shaping and forming, the brand new discussions that are going on, the breaking news that's happening right now. And of course, as we continue to see the playoff structure begin to get closer and closer and closer, where you will see half the league's teams that have made it into the playoffs be ousted and taken out. And of course, on top of those things, you'll end up seeing more coaching reviews, more people going in and looking to do job hiring acquisition here. We are getting closer and closer to the rumors of the Atlanta Falcons and who their current head coach will be. We're getting to that point. We're getting closer to it. So, man, oh man, it's exciting to be here in the AM on a Thursday to talk to you guys about all that is good and golden going on. Christopher Sanders, Taylor Crystal Child of God, and Blizz in the building. If you haven't already said hi in the chat, please make sure that you hit us up in the chat. I will say hi. I promise I don't bite. My goodness. Here we go. Let's get into a couple of bits of news here for the Atlanta Falcons and some things that I have seen on the Twitters. Of course, we have more breaking news constantly coming out as we see more theory crafting, more interviews, more hiring process, and of course, we have more of the grounders popping in the building going, what's Dan coming in here to talk about? Well, let's just get straight into it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Atlanta Falcons are the current clubhouse leader to hire Bill Belichick, former New England Patriots, a longtime successful head coach who over the last couple of years without Tom Brady, without a true quarterback successor. I know that they went after a couple of options over the last couple of years to try to replace Brady, to try to get to that point where they could have a successful quarterback, and have yet to really put that together. The hiring process and the offense and defensive coordinators and everybody from top to bottom, as Belichick has tried to move those pieces, seems to not have been put together correctly. It is Friday. You are correct, actually, Mr. Christopher Sanders. I am still thinking about yesterday. I was currently at work yesterday and just too much going on, but welcome to that Falcons Friday episode for you. But here as we sit with Bill Belichick potentially as the Falcons' number one white whale candidate, going out here Moby Dick style and being like, the whale will get it. Arthur Blank seems to be trying to push heavily for a massive name and massive culture change within the Atlanta Falcons organization. And as we get more news and as we see more develop, the Atlanta Falcons have also blocked most, if not all, of their coordinators or their coaches that are doing things from the O-line to the D-line to the corners to wide receiver room. They have pretty much blocked everybody from going out and trying to interview for any jobs at this particular point in time. They want to settle their head coach, see what their head coach is going to do, and get input from Terry Fontenot, as well, of course, Arthur Blank and Rich McKay's stamp of approval of what they're going to end up doing, to solidify this and see whether or not they're going to end up keeping a lot of their guys, changing of staff, guys being brought in, guys being let go, so that they can get things done. But obviously, Ryan Nielsen, defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, and Jerry Gray, who is also assistant defense coordinator as well as DB coach, have been blocked from doing any interviews for any other jobs as of this particular point in time. So here we are sitting going, not a single bit of our coaching staff except for our head coach has been necessarily moved and or fired. And you're also now looking at guys like Bill Belichick as your major white whale, their guy that you're going to try to go after, who hasn't really done anything or proven anything from a Tom Brady leaving and building up to make that Patriots way standpoint over these last couple of years. Not that they haven't trended better or found some ways to get winning ways back in New England, But Mac Jones has been an absolute failure and flop. Most of their other options, Bailey Zappi, have just not been able to overcome the obstacles that are in front of them. So you can tell right now in New England, as of this morning when they hired Rob Mayo, which is incredible for Mr. Mayo. I believe that he's going to do fantastic things there in New England. They immediately solved their head coaching issue and are now looking for a general manager to assist in the process of rebuilding New England, whereas Atlanta has not pulled any triggers whatsoever. And I said this on Twitter, and I just want to read this back out to you guys again here on Twitter, just so that you guys can kind of get an idea of where my thought process is at this particular point. But I have this sinking feeling that Arthur Blank wants Bill Belichick, but Bill is waiting for other opportunities to open. Once Art sees Bill is never coming, he will turn things over to Terry Fontenot, and Ben Johnson will be the number one selection for the Atlanta Falcons. And I am totally wrong if I am wrong. I'm totally okay with being wrong if I am wrong. However, as things particularly stand at this very moment, you are currently looking at Bill Belichick, Ben Johnson, and then a host of guys that have been interviewed yesterday, or at least were given a formal asking to be interviewed over the next coming days to weeks. We still have playoff teams yet to play, and a whole group of people that potentially will not be coaching at their current positions from playoff teams, from playoff organizations. And candidates in those particular organizations that have, they can't do any interviews, they can't do anything because they're currently in the playoffs trying to work. So guys like Ben Johnson aren't given an opportunity to come to Atlanta and have an interview for that job because they have to finish what they're doing. And the further they go into the playoffs, the further that will drag out for the Atlanta Falcons, especially if that is their guy. But you look at a guy like Bill Belichick who needs 15 more games in order to break this, all-time record of most wins in the NFL, and he's looking for an opportunity that will give him those wins over the next, let's call it 3 to 4 seasons, because you're talking about a 72-year-old man, a guy who has been an NFL mind for so long, a guy who's definitely knows what he's talking about, but over the years, you've seen a slow and steady decline down in his defense and offensive play calling, albeit, they run a very vibrant defense, and Ryan Nielsen has been there in Atlanta running a rejuvenation of our current defense. We've spent a lot of money on that defense, but Bill Belichick seems to be more of a week-to-week defensive basis with guys that can be able to do what he asks them to do and play on many different levels in many different areas. So where Bill Belichick currently sits with the Atlanta Falcons is he's made no major move to come to Atlanta and do an interview. He's looking at all the other opportunities that are out there, the ones that are going to give him the best opportunity to get wins now. And there are better situations, including, apparently, dark horses currently still in the playoffs that may end up firing their coaching staff and trying to go after a Bill Belichick in order to bring some more stability to their current rosters and current situations to propel them further than just playing a game at home or a game away in the playoffs and being one and done. They want to go to the NFC Championship. They want to go win Super Bowls. So here we currently sit with the Atlanta Falcons in limbo, coaching limbo. They have blocked every coach that they currently have right now at positions and at defensive coordinator from interviewing any other jobs until they figure out what they're trying to do. And on top of those things, continue to be the clubhouse leader for the Bill Belichick assigning, the bring in, the interview, the main focus. They want to make cultural change here in Atlanta for the better. And that currently sits right now with the Atlanta Falcons a bad taste in their mouth, because the other big question currently going on in Atlanta is no quarterback. You have no real quarterback currently sitting on the roster that can lead you forward. If you are a Desmond Ridder supporter, good for you. There's been good and there's been very bad. There's been very, very highs and there's been very, very lows. On that same exact page, you're looking at a Taylor Heinicke. Very, very high and very, very low. And the lows are very low on both of those players. So anyone currently in the chat over here right now, Let me know who your favorite head coaching candidate could potentially be and what you would think the Atlanta Falcons will do going forward. I'm going to go to the chat, and I'm going to say hi to a couple of people. Falcons fans forever. Good to see you, my man. Rose Stackson in the building. McCullough. Taylor McCullough. Thank you so much. Tyler McCullough. Thank you so much for putting that out for me, man. I appreciate it. I have terrible pronunciation with people's names, so I appreciate you so much. Blizz is in the building. Boy Bangley, one of the moderators, is currently in here. Thank you so much. Dave is in the building. Thank you so much, guys. Rise up, stay grounded. Make sure you guys give off the salutes in the chat. I really appreciate all the support. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for all of future content that we are going to be putting out. Great podcast that we're currently starting off right now, and a really good discussion. What does Bill Belichick? Let's back up for a second before we talk about quarterback, before we talk about roster building, before we put tinfoil hats on, and let's discuss what is the positive and the negative influence that Bill Belichick would have on the Atlanta Falcons roster. Over the last couple of years, Bill Belichick has not necessarily pushed a convincing positive script for New England. It has been a downward trend ever since Tom Brady has left. And that is, one of the bigger issues when a guy, a quarterback, a legend, a Hall of Famer, a guy who's playing quarterback at an incredibly high level begins to fall off and has such influence in the NFL community that he can even bring in free agents just on his own whim and word, kind of usurps your head coach, and you can't find a replacement for that. Someone that is influencing on the free agent level. Someone that's influencing players that want to leave and saying, hey, just come on back. We love this. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Dave in the building, thank you so much for the $5 dono. It's going to pop up on the screen in just a moment, but thank you so much. I can't stomach this guy, Lieutenant. Oh, man. Goodness. Thank you, Dave. Don't need Bill. Absolutely. James Olberton in the building. What's going on, my man? Rise up, stay grounded. Hope you're doing well. Anybody else in the building that hasn't already said hi, please make sure that you say hi in the chat. I would love to say hi back, as long as I'm not going on an absolute rant. But when you lose a Tom Brady, you lose not only an incredibly talented quarterback, incredibly talented influencer within your own building, within your own 52 guys, because you're counting not Tom Brady in that particular structure. But you are currently losing an influencer, losing someone who knows people around the league that would want to come to New England and influences them and is able to talk to their agents through his agent, but also losing that incredible QB talent. And he's kind of that kind of a morph, He's able to go from place to place to place to place. And be able to play any particular type of offense, albeit there are limitations set on certain things. Ryan Watkins, what's going on, my man? Rise up, stay grounded. I hope you're doing well. Good, sir. Saw you in the Discord. We were going back and forth there. For life. Thank you so much for that $5 dono, Dave, in the chat. You are fantastic, brother. Yeah, I don't specifically know what you're talking about. I can't stomach this guy, Lieutenant, but hey, man, I understand. I understand, because there's a lot of different coaching talents out there and a lot of different guys that we could end up going after. So there's a lot to it. But being that the Atlanta Falcons currently right now are in the situation, when you lose a QB talent like that in Tom Brady in New England, a guy that can do all those things for you, not just on the field, but also off the field as well, and also sway fan opinion in that particular nature as well. And then a Bill Belichick who had the right pieces in place pre-Tom Brady. Bledsoe, going out there and playing a good defense, has fielded good defenses year after year after year after year, ones that can morph, ones that can change. And as the NFL has evolved and changed in its own way, you see a Bill Belichick not able to keep up with the times, but at least be on the tail end of the times at all time. So you're at least understanding the message and at least being able to put something fielded out there to stop what's going on. but you have yet to find a quarterback there, and you have not done well in A, drafting, and B, putting personnel where it belongs, not only on the field, but also up and down the list when it comes to coaches, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, special teams, DB coaches, defensive line. You've seen a steady decline of New England from that particular point. So if you're looking at Bill Belichick is also looking back at you saying, what can you offer me? What can I use to not only get the 15 wins that I'm looking for, but also bring you a Super Bowl or multiple playoff appearances over, let's call it a 4-year period before he decides to hang up the gloves and the shoes and say, I'm out of here, goodbye, here's my clipboard, here's my headset, I'm going to go off into the sunset and get out of here. There's also the narrative, too, if you're a Bill Belichick, of Tom Brady went without you and went to Tampa and won a Super Bowl. So since his leaving, you have done diddly. Couldn't find a quarterback, couldn't field a team that could be a winner in the division, and have now fallen behind not one team, but 2 teams, and potentially now 3 teams in your own division. And that doesn't bring confidence from a fan base perspective. Like, if you're a fan of this team, of this organization, the Atlanta Falcons, you're looking at Bill Belichick and going, great, we'll be more strict, we'll be more dress code, we'll be more white collar, we'll really know what we're trying to do, we'll have plenty of opportunity to take all of the sharp edges and round it out and make sure that the locker room is whole and they obey their coaches and they obey the system. And that is fantastic if you're trying to create that structure. However, if it does not translate well with your current DC, OC, your GM, your player personnel, and then what you're going to be ending up to do with drafting, and you don't have a good track record, albeit Tom Brady again, you draft him, he becomes great, you put the things around him, you didn't have to deal with it since 2001, 2004, whatever that was, 2000. You don't have a great track record of quarterback. You only have great track record of 2 quarterbacks. Bledsoe, before he got hurt, who I would say is upper, I wouldn't say was mid. And then you have Tom Brady. That's it. You brought in Mac Jones, terrible. You brought in Bailey Zappi, can't overcome the deficiencies in talent there. It is talented, but is not a top echelon quarterback at this particular point in time. Feel bad for him because Bailey Zappi's not a bad quarterback. And you have Jacoby Brissett, and you've had this, and you've had that. You brought in Cam Newton, and there have been nothing but failures since you have had no Brady. So we can't forget about that. We can't take that out of our mind and say, well, the old Belichick, all of these things have to be taken into consideration when you're looking at a head coaching candidate. If Arthur Blank is so desperate in that identity to bring in a Bill Belichick, well, you're going to have to sell the farm for someone who is not even declared. He has 4 days left to declare in Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, if he loves the attention and he loves all this stuff, that should already be a red flag for you. That should already be a major mental red flag for you about Caleb Williams, not his on the field, but his off the field and his mentality. If we don't want to talk about mentality here in this particular program, because this all is together. There is no, we talk about this section, then we talk about that section, then we talk about the final things, and that you can see these chapters. Everything flows together. Everything is fluid. Bill Belichick's bad track record of taking quarterbacks, albeit only 2 major successful ones, and then needing 15 wins to be able to break the record, and needing a team that's going to be competent to do that, to me, says that all of this jib-jab about Bill Belichick coming here to Atlanta, albeit it could break, the news could break in any moment, is just the same thing as the Deshaun Watson bit. It's somebody with a lot of money in their pockets saying, I'm going to throw all my money out to go get that option, to go get the one person that the white whale, that Moby Dick, to be able to go out there. I'm Captain Ahab, and I'm finally going to get the white whale. and end up destroying yourself in the process. And that's the same exact thing that we've seen for the Deshaun Watson case. I'm going to go get the big guy. I'm going to go get the big fish. I'm going to reel him in, and sexual allegations off the field and inconsistent play on the field. And now Joe Flacco is literally leading that team to success in the playoffs, who came out of nowhere, who was probably taking a toothpick to his teeth to get corn out of his mouth. Where you're currently sitting right now in Atlanta is in a heavy need for a top quarterback selection. And Caleb Williams right now, if you're bringing in Bill Belichick, Caleb Williams right now screams mistake. Talent-wise, you have a high floor and a ceiling that is unknown because of the lack of structure there at USC. Yes, I said it. If you're a USC fan right now, lack of structure at USC. That's the truth. It's not good. It's not pleasant. Let me go back into the chat and say hello to anyone who has come through. Lucas Stricker, good to see you, my man. Rise up, stay grounded. Asian who likes music, thank you so much for coming through. I appreciate you coming through and joining the conversation. Rise up, stay grounded. Do you think we should draft Jaden Daniels and hire Ben Johnson? That is not a worst scenario in the world, but hey, I'm gonna tailor those expectations and pull myself back to where we are. Then you have Drake May. Again, Bill Belichick comes here. He's the head coach. Whatever it is that makes the structure work, right? And then you're looking at trading all assets to be able to go get the next big quarterback, right? You go after Drake May. Drake May, very high floor, and then somewhat seen ceiling, albeit a glass ceiling, but a ceiling that is multi-layered of that glass, and he needs real care and time. Because Caleb Williams, to me, seems like the type of quarterback that you need 3 years. You're going to get amazing plays. You're going to have a winning team and structure, but there's going to be always something missing from the Caleb Williams game plan, and it's always going to be that out-of-structure quarterback play for Caleb Williams. Whereas Drake May is heavily in a structured system, is not an elite runner by any means necessary, but is more of that power-type quarterback that you're looking for, would definitely fit in quite a few systems. But you already see that the floor is risen on this particular guy, and the ceiling is however much he can crack through the system and make bigger plays from the system. Some will disagree with that, but I believe that that's kind of the structure you see from Caleb Williams, Drake May. And then Jaden Daniels is we can't see the ceiling because we have no idea in the darkest of dark up in the heights here in this house. The floor continues to rise year after year after year. The stats get better. The structure gets better. He's a throw first, run second guy who's been given a playbook that allows him to use his God-given talent as a running quarterback, and has a heck of a spin of a ball, but needs development and time to become better, and he needs a real structure to put himself in place and submit himself, but the floor keeps rising year after year. But we have no idea how high the roof is for this style of quarterback. This is the same discussion that we have with J.J. McCarthy, who is got all the talent in the world, but is in a system that limits what he can do personally, albeit all the testing and all the eye test and all of the athletic traits that you would want in a quarterback are there in J.J. McCarthy. Arm is good, very little accuracy issues, knows how to drive the ball, has legs, probably is not a straight running quarterback, but will burn you if he gets the opportunity, makes conservative passes, but when he puts the ball in a 50-50 situation, it's usually a 60-40 situation, has the lowest, by stats, lowest turnover-worthy plays in college football combined, albeit has the lowest attempts from some of the top quarterbacks in the class, and has yet to even decide whether or not he's going to go to the NFL or not. So we have a very interesting discussion to be had when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons and what their process is going to be, because we don't know what the Bears are going to do with Justin Fields, albeit they fired their defense and offensive coordinators but kept their head coach. We don't know what the New England Patriots are thinking right now that they have hired Mayo and what that quarterback situation is going to look like. We have no idea what the Giants want to do with Daniel Jones and whether or not he's going to, have that trigger pulled on top of all of those things. And we don't know what Washington specifically are thinking about right now when it comes to their quarterback situation. Is Sam Howell sitting back there and a brand new ownership group and no real head coach yet? So 1 out of 8 teams, and possibly we're looking at 10 teams because there might be 2 dark horses that are currently coached right now in the playoffs that may fire their coaches. We're looking at 1 out of 10 teams right now has filled their coaching vacancy, and they have the number 2 overall, or number 2 or number 3 overall pick right now. Number 3, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go into the chat. Let me go into the chat and let me see what everybody's talking about in here and kind of going through some of these phases. Dan, what are your thoughts on Ben Johnson asking for $15 million a year, and would you approve that? Personally, I don't know if that's coming out of somebody else's pocket. That's coming directly out of Arthur Blank's pocket. With how the structure is currently changing on the NFL coaching landscape, and a lot of the veteran guys leaving, Pete Carroll's gone. Belichick is gone, albeit he's looking for another job. And now we just saw Nick Saban retire. Jimbo Fisher in college retired. So we're seeing a lot of guys leave their jobs, and the old guard is leaving, and the new guard is coming back. I think a Ben Johnson asking for $15 million a year is a possibility that you could entertain, is something that you could entertain if you're Arthur Blank, if that is the guy. But the results have to be there heavily. 2 years as OC, 1 year as an assistant. And Ben Johnson has definitely shown some great things, albeit with what I consider it to be a mid-tier quarterback in Jared Goff, with a star special tight end in Sam Laporta and a decent crop of wide receivers there and decent crop of running backs there that have allowed them to be successful this year and now get into the playoffs this year, win the division this year. The Lions really haven't done that in their history. If Ben Johnson's your guy and you're going to pay him $15 million a year, I want to know if that's just media or if that's kind of a buffer to get the conversation started. Would you entertain giving $15 million a year to a guy who has shown you in 2 seasons that he can take a Jared Goff from mid-tier nobody that we all gave up on to a guy that's out here slinging dragons and slaying dragons and beating some of the better teams in the NFL and showing everybody that he can put numbers on you week to week to week to week, albeit injuries and struggles have happened, but Ben Johnson has been able to overcome some of those things. So, doesn't go against our salary cap. Give him whatever he wants. Blank owes us. Atlanta Dog, what's going on, my man? Rise up, stay grounded. Sup, Lieutenant Belichick is coming, and he's bringing Brady. Joe Brady. I could definitely see something like that. That's very interesting. Joe Brady is another very interesting discussion. He could be up for a head coaching job. There's a lot to that. So now we have discussed a little bit about the Bill Belichick situation. We've touched on some other opportunities for the Atlanta Falcons at head coach. A bit just small discussions about that, but discussions nonetheless that we have to come to an agreement that regardless of who is the next Falcons head coach, we have to support that head coach, and we have to think about the changes systematically, schematically, and then also from on and off the field to this Atlanta Falcons roster. And that's what brings me into this next part. That how many of you, raise of hands, I see you guys all over here. How many of you, raise of hands right now, believe that there are untouchable pieces to the Atlanta Falcons roster right now. Untradeable, uncuttable pieces to this Atlanta Falcons roster. And I'm gonna say it like this. Give me your feeler. Give me 1 to 5 the most likeliness that there are players on this roster that are untouchable. A 1 being anybody can be traded and moved, and a 5 being like, bro, this roster right now is pretty locked in, and you can't be moving nothing. I want to see. I want to see what you guys have to say over here, because I think. And I'll begin to have this discussion with you guys now, because, again, all of this ties in. This is not get the head coach and then get the quarterback and then start molding the roster. Free agency is going to happen sooner than we would like to admit. The Super Bowl and the first round of the playoffs are going to breeze by this year. The Super Bowl is going to happen very quickly. The new league year starts only a few weeks after the Super Bowl is done. I mean, free agency happens first. Free agency happens absolutely first before we get into any draft discussion. I mean, we have Combine, yes, East-West Shrine Game, Senior Bowl. Yes, we get that. The Hawaii Bowl, all these things end up happening in a particular order. But free agency happens first. Coach will probably be in here by the time the Super Bowl ends. You're going to be doing all this scouting right now. And then we're going to get hit by that free agency and the additions and subtractions of this team. And then we get to the draft. Good smoothie. I make fruit smoothies every day for my wife and I, so that we can kind of keep our bodies healthy. Lots of good vitamins and minerals in those. Make sure you guys are drinking your OJ. Keep yourself healthy. Go out and run a mile every day. You know, it's not going to hurt you much. So I've seen people start to begin the discussion here for T-Dub. What's going on, my man? Rise up, stay grounded. 5. We wouldn't get good value from anybody but Bates, Terrell, and Lindstrom, who cannot be traded. That is untrue. AJ Terrell definitely can be traded. We have not even talked about 5th-year option with that. Kyle Pitts can definitely be traded. That can happen. The only way that Lindstrom can be moved is via trade. Go look at that contract. That's not something that people want to admit, but go look at that contract. The same thing, Grady, Jake. There's ways to be able to move this money. We haven't even seen restructures yet. That's something guys, listen. We haven't even seen restructures yet. We haven't even seen money get moved yet. I mean, like, seriously, that's something that everybody in here needs to start envisioning, is money to be moved soon. Restructures to be happening soon. More money to be freed up soon. We're talking about $40 to $50 million, technically, before people start getting paid, that the Atlanta Falcons currently have. So this is a fluid movement type of deal here. I understand if you don't want to acknowledge this, but what would be the wildest yet unlikely hire for head coach? Kirby Smart, Dan Quinn, Deion Sanders, even though DQ is going to Seattle. I guess Kirby would be very crazy, but there's a lot of great talent that they have brought in for interviews. So there's no particular name that I'm currently like I'm stuck on that. Like, oh, that one right there, that's crazy. I think more or less, if it's not Belichick, then the door swings wide open to any kind of crazy nonsense. And it's not nonsense technically, because it could be amazing. It could be amazing to see what the Falcons are going to end up doing here. Let's just make sure I'm not missing anything here. Dabo is all in on Clemson. Okay, so let's not talk about any more Dabo discussion. I think that's probably over, right? Let's see what Adam Schefter is currently saying right now. Nothing good. Okay, so we haven't had any major news yet on anything specific other than the Mayo stuff this morning, which congratulations to Mayo and becoming the head coach of the New England Patriots. That'll be a lot of fun. Blizz is right, Lindstrom and Bates, but anyone else can go if it means we get Williams or Daniels. I agree with that. I heavily agree with that. Heavily agree with that. Lindstrom, Bates, London, Bijan safe. I think everyone else is movable. It's probably the rookies. Like any major rookies right now are probably not movable. But anyone 2 to 3 years in right now or more are probably end up being movable. It actually makes sense to move off of Jake Matthews. I'm not sure. I believe he could save a few bucks as well. I believe next year is the major savings, but you could end up seeing Jake Matthews traded. Let me actually... Jake Matthews, NFL contract. Let me double check here. Spot Rec is a great place. Over the Cap is also a fantastic place. Potential out for 2024. I'm going to open this up really quick. If we release him pre-June 1st, we take a $34 million dead cap hit. As well as a 24 cap savings of negative $12 million, so it would actually eat away money. We already owe the 34, so it's not counted for us. It's still currently counted against us immediately, so that's already something taken out of the cap. But then you would actually have negative 12 million more taken out of the cap, and so your cap number that's currently there would diminish if you end up releasing him. If you end up trading him, you have a dead cap of 18 and a cap savings of 2. So you're probably not releasing or trading post June 1st for Jake Matthews, probably just leaving him at left tackle or end up moving him to right tackle in that particular status. You have no cap savings releasing him post June 1st this year, and a post June 1st trade actually nets you the money that you're looking for. You have $6 million in dead cap for this year, $12 million in dead cap for next year, so you would still owe him $12 million next year. And then you'd have a 2024 cap savings of $15.5 million. So if you were incredibly aggressive and couldn't find anything for Jake Matthews to do, then you would probably trade him post June 1st or put him in as part of a trade clause that he will be traded after June 1st. So after free agency, after the draft, you already have something lined up with another team and you end up trading Jake Matthews off. I could see that. Then you would have to move Bergeron over to left tackle, and that's a whole nother discussion. The big year is 2025. 2025, you end up having $12 million in dead cap and $9 million in cap savings on a pre-June 1st release. It's the same thing with the trade pre-June 1st. And then anything after June 1st is incredible cap savings, even though there's $6 million in dead, either by trade or by release, but you would get $15 million in savings. So that's kind of the Jake Matthews bit. There's really no reason to move him. You got Bergeron sitting at left guard, who's going to do really good things for you. You have trouble at center. You have a completely locked up right guard and a right tackle right now that is completely and utterly tradable, and I want to kind of break this down as well. Atlanta Falcons, Caleb McGarry contract. 2025 will be the out year. This year, you will have a dead cap of 9 with a cap savings of 3 if you release Caleb McGarry. By trade, it's more money to you. So pre-June 1st, if you trade Caleb McGarry, you are saving $8.5 million, and you are owing him already taken out of your cap, $4 million in dead cap. So that $4 million will not be added back to you until 2025. If you end up releasing him post June 1st, that's $7 million in dead cap that's counted against you. But and $2 million in dead cap for the following year with a cap savings of $5 million. And if you post June 1st trade Caleb McGarry, which is very unlikely, and this never really happens, so just put this out of your mind, but just a little tidbit for you. $2 million in dead cap for 2024, $2 million in dead cap in 2025, and a cap savings in 2024, this year, of $10.5 million. So any trade pre or post for Kaleb McGary nets you close to $10 million in cap space, and really you don't owe him a heavy lot. It would be 2025 is when you can actually start trying to move with dead cap of only 2 and a cap savings of 14 on a release. And I'm not even going to go into trades and whatnot, because if he's not playing and you're trying to release him, then no other team is going to want that. So that's kind of like the setup there if you are looking at the Falcons trying to trade or move players. The Bears have yet to figure out what they want to do. And we were just discussing a little bit about other plausible options and or what the Atlanta Falcons currently have lined up for information and setup. I see people in the chat currently right now talking about Raheem Morris and the potential of him coming back to Atlanta and running the offense and running things as a head coach, which would be pretty decent if you're looking for things, as well as the fact that he does outside zone blocking and things of that nature. But I look at Raheem Morris and say, if you're going to bring Raheem in and you're going to keep the same defense, I doubt the Falcons will want to immediately put a rookie quarterback with Raheem. I think they would be more willing to stay put, bring in a Kirk Cousins or a Russell Wilson or a Tannehill or something of that nature in order to kind of push things down the road, because they wouldn't want to overfill Raheem Morris's responsibilities at that time. They would probably end up staying at 8, picking the best offensive lineman, picking the best defensive end, something to that extent. The coach that comes in here with the best coaching identity is going to dictate what the Falcons end up doing in the draft. And there's a lot of players currently right now on the Atlanta Falcons roster who are movable. So if A.J. Terrell or Kyle Pitts or any of these other premium player selections are not what you want to do going forward, you're saying you're not going to include that fifth-year option and you're not going to give them a bag based on their level of play, and you find a home for them somewhere else, they could be a trade-up candidate and trade candidate for, player acquisition, so you don't end up losing so many draft picks and you can try to replace it. Again, you want to get into the whole Kyle Pitts thing? Fine, I can do that. Guys, if Kyle Pitts is getting outplayed by Jonnu Smith and by Michael Pruitt, and he is currently playing right now with injuries, then why is he even playing at all? You can't utilize someone who is hurt. I think there's a really good quote in the Ten Commandments movie, old 1950s, 1960s movie, where he goes, Moses goes up to the master builder, to Ramesses, to the Pharaoh, and he goes, dead slaves do not build bricks. And he lays a brick on the scale, and he goes, so I don't care if I gave them a day of rest. I don't care if I, let them take the temple granaries. I don't care if I went out and kind of like did things against the way that we're doing what we're doing. We have to have hard workers who trust us, who want to be here, even if it's still an overarching issue. We need to be able to build your, treasure cities and da-da-da-da-da. And I want to change the system, change the way that things are culturally done. So when you look at this entire group, you can't have injured players out there trying to prove a point to you and try to justify their ability being here. If it's not working, you have to move on from those things. And that's why I think A.J. Terrell, who's not a big, I'm getting tons of interceptions, I'm getting tons of pass breakups and things like that. We've seen him get burnt a couple of times. Still a very, very good corner at his position, probably top 10, something like that. He's going to want a bag. I don't think the Falcons are going to be willing to put that bag out. If I'm wrong, I'm totally fine with that because I like A.J. Terrell. But if A.J. Terrell is moved and we keep the current guys that we have and go after another corner in the draft or go after another veteran somewhere, then I'm fine with that too, because you've got to move on and separate the wheat from the chaff. The same thing applies to Kyle Pitts. You took him number 4 overall. Arthur Smith kind of ruined him. He is still a unicorn. He was injured last year. He didn't have the best year. Outplayed by Jonnu Smith. Outplayed by Michael Pruitt. Outplayed by, Fitzpatrick. You're going to have to figure out what he's worth, and it isn't a bag. It just isn't. It's not a bag. So here we are stating that Kyle Pitts is, without question, totally and truly tradable if you are looking to try to move up or acquire more picks. And that sets a precedent. That sets a very, very interesting precedent. I think that's just very interesting. I think this is very, very interesting where we're currently sitting. Magic Notes comes out and says, if how you're thinking is wrong, I don't want to be right. And I completely understand. There's not a lot of players on this roster right now, if you're a Falcons fan, that aren't movable. There's pretty much everybody is movable. Pretty much everybody can be, in some way, shape, or form, moved. We have a general manager hire as of right now. A season's first general manager hire. Commanders are hiring 49ers assistant GM Adam Peters as their general manager, sources tell ESPN. Peters won Super Bowls while working in New England and Denver and has been with San Francisco since 2017, helping build one of the NFL's top rosters. So the Commanders have officially got their GM. Now, the question will be, will this GM follow the 49ers, Denver Broncos, New England Patriots connections that he currently has within the league and take someone he's familiar with, or wait for the playoffs to slowly settle out, figure out who's available, and bring in the best guy? They have hired quite a group right now to solidify their coaching and GM search, and they have now hired their GM. The Washington Commanders have made the next move. First it was New England, now it's the Washington Commanders. We will see more as the day goes on. I think where we're currently sitting right now, just looking at all current availability and all things that could be good and could be bad, this, I think, only works against the Atlanta Falcons. You're hiring smart individuals who have been part of really successful teams, and they are going to be looking for the most successful, talented. Not that every team isn't. Every team is looking for the most successful guy. But the smarter people in the room are being hired by these agencies to these teams who are trying to completely change their identity. And when these guys end up getting these gigs, they are going to go out there and go, we're swinging. We're swinging for the fence. We are swinging for the parking lot. We're trying to hit a deep Ohtani, Ronald Acuna Jr. blast into the parking lot and lodge this ball in somebody's windshield. And the Commanders are doing the right deal. They're doing the right thing. And I applaud them. I applaud them very much so. I applaud them very much so, because I think that organization is going to end up turning itself around, albeit it's still going to be a work in progress. There's still going to be a lot of movement that they have to do. There's still going to be a lot of roster development and turnover that is going to change how they get their roster done. So that's going to be very, very interesting. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns in the chat right now? Do we have anything that we want to do? Right now is your opportunity to go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Hit us up with comments. Anyone that does the dono comments, I'll read those over anything else that we have going on. Otherwise, I'm going to go do some finishing thoughts here and get ourselves into the next bit. Anybody who has currently joined the monthly subscription program, thank you so much for doing so. We're going to have some fantastic videos and more podcasts like this one coming out over the next couple of days, over the next couple of months, to be able to give you guys fantastic content and continue to follow this very interesting storyline of where we're currently going right now, and tried to make this a full-time gig for you guys to be able to not only develop an understanding of how these players and how the system is going, but also continue to cover this news and continue to give you the facts, the truth, and give you guys a little bit of a deeper perspective on what is going on right now. Just completely talking about the factual evidence that's currently in front of us and doing a little bit of futures work to give us a better understanding of where the Atlanta Falcons are currently sitting right now. Thank you guys so much for just putting it down. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have things, throw them into the chat right now. If you want to dono and have your comment or your question read out aloud, then I have no problem with that. But I'm going to go ahead and finish up some of my final thoughts about what this first week has beheld and give you guys kind of an idea of where I'm currently sitting and what I like and what I don't like of the tape that I've currently seen. If you are a Caleb Williams fan, I stress to you to watch every game of his 2023 season and 2022 season if you can find the tape. Not the highlights, the whole game. That's a lot of hours of film. But for someone like myself who wants to really put in a heavy lock on what is currently going on, I see someone who is not mature. I see someone who is troubled. I see someone who on the field, whether that be by scheme and design, because it definitely could be, but I see someone who cannot find open passing lanes and does not check down to his underneath passes and is always trying to make a massive play happen. That can work for you and against you. And as I said earlier in this particular podcast episode, we've seen him make amazing plays. And we have seen what the floor of Caleb Williams looks like. I mean, the accuracy, the missed passes, the trying to do too much. We've seen it. We've also seen all the good. The big plays, the dynamic runs, the way he protects his body. We've seen some good things too. But we haven't seen is a maturity. And that scares me. From personally watching this tape, scares me to put weight into saying that you want to go get Caleb Williams. The athletic profile is so heavy, so large, so ridiculous. But the actual football, and this could be because of their scheme, because of what they're trying to do, doesn't seem to translate very well. They took on some teams last year in 2023 that had no business really competing with them because of the level of talent that USC has. And were stunned. That could be because of USC's defense, which to some degree it is. I look at Caleb Williams and go, he needs a steady hand. He needs a mature head coach that's going to rein him in and say, just make the right throws. If you got to extend the play, extend it. Now you get to Drake May. I'll take Caleb Williams without question. I will. But those concerns, I have questions. Concerns and questions are two different things. So let's just get that out of the way. Concerns and questions are two different things. Concerns means there's issues. Questions means that if I have a question and I get an answer for it, that's positive because then I can take it in the right direction. You always want to take something in the right direction. So I have questions about Drake May. Is it the talent around you, brother? Was it the offensive line? Was it the scheme? Because the talent is there. That's the truth. Why were they making you do certain things? I need those questions answered. Because I see the throws, I see the runs, I see the plays. I saw you during that Clemson game, and you struggled heavily because they played a very, very NFL-esque defense against you and were able to not only get to you, but also were able to disrupt you in every way, shape, and form, running and passing. And you still were able to get close to helping them win that game. North Carolina. Falcons fan 408, what's going on, man? Rise up, stay grounded. I hope you're doing well. So I have questions about Drake May, not concerns. I have questions. I have concerns about Caleb Williams, with some questions. I have questions about Drake May, but very little concerns. I also have a very small set, very, very unique set of concerns and a very, very large amount of questions about Jaden Daniels. Because it's based on what I've seen on the tape, it tells me that Jaden Daniels has gone out there and has been part of a particular system that allow him to do particular things that have played to his strengths. And can coaches do the same thing? Can they copy and paste that to their NFL offense? I think a lot of people look at him and go, that's the next Lamar. Maybe they're not wrong. Maybe they're completely wrong. But if Matt Ryan's word is anything, Matt Ryan has gone out and said, well, I mean, look, NFL scouts are going to go out there and they're going to say J.J. McCarthy and Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. Nothing against Drake May, but we only have questions about Drake May. We don't have really many concerns about Drake May. We're thinking that he's probably going to be a pretty decent quarterback at the next level, and we just have to capitalize on the answers to the questions that we have about Drake May. Talent, system, what he was asked to specifically do, and we can change those things and make him better. With Caleb, it's completely different, and with Jaden, it's completely different. And with Michael Penix Jr., it's a cause for concern on a lot of scale, especially since your right tackle needs to now be your left tackle, especially since he's had 2 knee injuries, especially since he got hurt in that championship game on the ribs, especially since his accuracy is all over the place. There's not a lot of questions. There's a pretty decent amount of medical concerns and things like that, and you can't smudge that out on paper and pretend that doesn't happen. You can smudge it a little bit and say, well, if we don't ask him to run a lot, if he could just be Tua, then he'll be okay. But when I look at Jaden Daniels and I listen to what Matt Ryan had to say about all of these quarterbacks, to me, it states that NFL front offices are going to look at Caleb Williams in this order. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy if he comes out, then Drake May, and then Michael Penix Jr. And that's not talking about level of talent. That's talking about how high the ceiling is on these guys and what they're capable of doing. Questions versus concerns. They're going to go, there are quite a few questions for Jaden Daniels and a few very specific concerns. There's a lot of concerns for both Caleb Williams and for Michael Penix Jr., but the talent is undeniable, so there is very little questions that we have. There are major questions for Drake May. Fixable, totally workable, and a team's going to go up there and go, that's my guy, and I'm totally satisfied with that being my guy. I'm one of those people. Totally satisfied with Drake May being my guy. There aren't many concerns at all. It's just seeing how high this floor can continue to go up and how tall the ceiling, the glass ceiling that he has to break, is dependent on the things around him, the variables around him. And so if you're Atlanta, tying this all in to end this pod, because we didn't have a lot of questions, we didn't have a lot of people come through and have anything else that they wanted to say. If you're Atlanta, and let's just pretend it's Bill Belichick, Ben Johnson, Joe Brady, and then everybody else down the board, including Raheem Morris. If this is your current smorgasbord, your buffet of options, who of these guys believes that they will be aggressive enough to be able to culturally stamp them in and say, this is the guy that's going to do everything for us? Versus any of those dudes going, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, Ryan Tannehill, and a host of others, Justin Fields in a trade, is my guy, and I want that maturity. I want that seniorism. I need someone who has already been a vet that knows what to do to be able to put this team over the top. And I think that becomes the bigger, major question that you, as Falcons fans, need to start asking yourself. Not which coach is going to bring us a Super Bowl, but which coach is dependent on a veteran or not dependent, but can develop a young quarterback in this class of guys, which none of them are really confirmed outside of, I believe, Jaden Daniels, to be going to the NFL. Michael Penix Jr. I think Michael Penix Jr. also signed up. But I haven't heard anything about Drake May, unless I'm wrong. I haven't had anything about J.J. McCarthy, because he still could go back to school. And I haven't heard anything about Caleb Williams yet. And those things should tell you some things. Also, by the way, I want everybody in here to know, anything that Michael Penix Jr. did during the college football championship really shouldn't be taken with a heavy grain of salt or weight. Anything during that playoff stretch should really not be taken with a lot of weight, because it's one thing to say, what are your deficiencies in a regular season, and see him go through the motions of what a regular season looks like for him, versus this kid is doing everything in their power with certain variables that are much, much heavier weighted. What is this kid doing in order to win a championship? And those things I don't think are one-to-one. They're not connectable. What you look like in a championship setting, which is an entire team trying to get a championship, and what you're doing week after week in the regular season, where star players can outperform their deficiencies or things because you have less of a spotlight on you. Those I don't believe translate very well. So what I don't fault a Michael Penix Jr. in the playoffs as much as I would during the regular season when I saw inaccuracy issues there. Same thing with Jaden. Same thing with Caleb. Same thing with Drake May. Same thing with J.J. McCarthy, who didn't get a lot of passing reps. He could be a completely different quarterback that you're talking about if he was given 30 to 40 passing reps. But if you have a great defense, you have a great offensive line, you have a really good running game, you're going to utilize that. And it's exactly what Michigan did for 2 straight games, and they were able to win, not only beating Alabama in overtime, but also able to go out there and, as a team, literally destroy Washington. So I don't look at either one of those guys in the playoffs and say that there's any connectivity there. There's anything that you can connect specifically to say that, you know, this team went into playoff mode and we have to judge any playoff quarterback in a way, shape, or form that we have been judging them during the regular season. That, I think, is pretty much kind of like the setup there. Matthew and Grevin, good to see you guys. Rise up, stay grounded. Good takes today. Keep them coming. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Make sure you guys hit us up, like this video, subscribe, comment on everything that you have in the comment section after this video is done. If you want to support us monthly, there is a membership program. You can be able to hit us up with a membership and keep the lights on and keep us going constantly. We're going to be here for all the news and notes. If I can go live in the morning, if I can go live in the evening, if I can go live when the news hits, I'm going to go live. If not, we're going to try every other day to hit us up with news, notes, and we're going to be making a couple of videos. Rise up, stay grounded. To everybody in the chat, my name is Lieutenant Dan. This was Unintentional Grounding live for Orlando, Florida, and I will see you guys again real soon. Stay tranquilo, all my friends. Peace and air grease.